This house costs $14,000 a year. Not to buy, to insure. And somewhere in America right now, a couple who worked their entire lives for the Florida dream just realized they can't afford to live in the home they already own. Everyone gets sold the same story. Palm trees. Golf carts at sunset. White sand beaches where the only thing you have to worry about is whether to order the early bird special at 4 or 4:30. Florida. The promised land of retirement. Except for one tiny problem. The average homeowner's insurance in Florida is almost $9,000 a year. That's more than $6,000 higher than the national average. Over 3.5 million people are already at risk of coastal flooding, with another million expected to be threatened by 2050. And HOA fees in some buildings have surged beyond $1,000 a month for buildings without amenities. Thousands of retirees are discovering that the Florida dream isn't a dream at all. It's a carefully constructed trap with 3 pressure points designed to squeeze every dollar out of your retirement savings. But here's what nobody talks about. There's a Florida that exists outside this nightmare. A version of the state where insurance doesn't bankrupt you, where your street won't be underwater in 20 years, and where you're not hemorrhaging money to an HOA that raises fees every time the wind changes direction. I'm about to show you the 3 traps that destroy retirement dreams, and then I'm going to reveal the strategy that lets you find the 10% of Florida towns that avoid all of them. This is the unless from the title. And before we go any further, if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to show you took months of research to compile, and I guarantee your financial advisor isn't telling you any of this. Let me paint you a picture. You're sitting in Ohio. You've got a nice house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, nothing fancy. Your homeowner's insurance? About $2,400 a year, that's the national average. You decide to retire, you sell the Ohio house. You take that money and you buy the exact same house in Florida. Same size, same build quality. Hell, maybe it's even newer. Your insurance bill is now almost $9,000. That's not a typo. You're paying over $6,000 more per year for the exact same coverage. And here's the part that makes my blood boil. That's just the average. If you bought near the coast, which, let's be honest, is why you moved to Florida in the first place, some homeowners are seeing premiums as high as $14,000 to $15,000 annually. Think about that for a second. $14,000 every single year. Just to insure a house you already own, that's a car payment. That's multiple vacations. That's the difference between a comfortable retirement and one where you're eating ramen 3 nights a week. But wait, it gets worse. Miami-Dade policies have soared over 300% in recent years. Jacksonville, which people thought was safer because it's farther north, 226% increase. And the reason, Hurricane Ian in 2022 left behind $113 billion in insured losses. Then Hurricane Milton in 2024 caused another $3.5 billion in damages. Insurance companies looked at Florida and said, you know what? This is unsustainable. 7 residential insurers went insolvent between February 2022 and 2023. 7. That means if you had one of those companies, you woke up one day and your insurance just vanished, and you had to scramble to find new coverage at whatever price the remaining companies decided to charge. Now here's the truly insidious part. Hurricane deductibles in Florida often range from 2% to 5% of the policy coverage, sometimes as much as 10%. That's not a fixed dollar amount like you're used to. If your house is insured for $500,000 and you have a 5% deductible, you're paying the first $25,000 out of pocket before insurance even kicks in. $25,000. Most retirees don't have that sitting in their checking account. And if you think you can just skip insurance, your mortgage company won't let you. And if you own your home outright and decide to go bare, well, one bad storm and you lose everything, you're trapped. The insurance companies know it. The state knows it. Everyone knows it except the retirees who keep showing up with their life savings, thinking they're going to live the dream. But let me show you something even more twisted. Florida has this thing called the homestead exemption. It can reduce your property taxes by up to $50,000. Sounds great, right? And it is. If you're 65 or older with a household income below a certain threshold, you can get an additional $50,000 exemption. That's potentially $1,600 saved on property taxes every year. Except nobody tells you that the money you save on property taxes gets completely obliterated by insurance costs. It's like they're giving you a coupon for a free appetizer while charging you triple for the entree. The math doesn't work. It never did. But people don't run the numbers until they're already locked in. They see no state income tax and property tax exemptions, and they think they're getting a deal. Then year 3 hits and they realize they're spending more money than they ever did up north, except now they're stuck in a market where selling means taking a massive loss because everyone else is figuring out the same thing. So you've seen the insurance trap. You're thinking, okay, I'll just move inland, away from the coast. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Because the next trap, it's not on the surface, it's under your feet. And you can't build a seawall to stop it. Here's what most people don't understand about Florida. It's not just about hurricanes, it's about geology. Florida sits on a bedrock of porous limestone. This sponge-like ground allows groundwater to flow through holes from below, rising at the same rate as the ocean floor. Translation? Seawalls don't work. Water flows under them. You can spend billions elevating roads and building barriers, and the water just laughs and comes up through the ground. Up to 70% of residents between North Carolina and Florida and $1 trillion in property could be impacted by rising groundwater by the end of the century, with just over 3 feet of sea rise. And Florida? South Florida represents the vast majority of that risk, with about 7.5 million people and $750 billion in property expected to face increasing risks. But let's talk about what this actually means in real human terms. Since 1950, Florida has experienced 8 inches of sea level rise. By 2050, an additional 10 to 12 inches is expected. That might not sound like much. 8 inches? 10 inches? Who cares? Here's who cares. Sea level rise is more than doubling the risk of a storm surge at the 4-foot level in South Florida by 2030. And 2030 is 5 years away. That's not some distant apocalypse. That's the date on a 30-year mortgage that someone signed in 2000. Overall, sea level rise is making the odds of a South Florida flood reaching more than 4 feet above high tide by 2050, on par with the odds of losing at Russian roulette. Read that again, Russian roulette. And it's not just the coast. Groundwater accounts for 64% of Florida's freshwater supply, and it's being contaminated by saltwater intrusion as ocean levels rise. Your drinking water, the stuff coming out of your tap, it's getting saltier. When flooding overwhelms wastewater systems, untreated sewage can mix with floodwaters, contaminating drinking water sources. So you've got a choice between drinking salty water or sewage water. Fantastic. And then there are the sinkholes. Florida is prone to sinkhole formation due to its thick carbonate deposits that are susceptible to dissolution by circulating groundwater. The ground underneath you can just collapse without warning. One day your house is fine, the next day there's a 50-foot hole where your bedroom used to be. I wish I was exaggerating. This isn't a problem you can engineer your way out of. You can't just move a little inland and be safe. Parts of Florida's southwestern coast could be totally submerged by 2050, including the Everglades National Park. The state is vanishing, slowly, inevitably, and nobody selling you that retirement condo is telling you this. But let me tell you what really keeps me up at night about all this. It's not just the flooding, it's not just the sinkholes, it's the cascade effect. When your street floods once a year instead of once a decade, property values tank. When property values tank, tax revenues drop. When tax revenues drop, the city can't maintain infrastructure. Roads crack. Storm drains fail. The whole system starts to spiral. And you know who gets stuck holding the bag? The retirees who moved there thinking they'd found paradise. You bought a house for $400,000. 5 years later, it's worth $300,000, but you can't sell because nobody wants to buy in a flood zone. Your insurance is $15,000 a year. Your HOA just hit you with a special assessment for $50,000 to fix the seawall that doesn't actually work because of the limestone problem I mentioned earlier. You're not retired. You're trapped in a slowly sinking money pit. And here's the truly dark part, the thing nobody wants to admit. The state knows, the developers know, the real estate agents know. They've always known. But the money keeps flowing in from retirees who don't understand the geology, don't check the flood maps, don't calculate the real cost of insurance, and by the time they figure it out, they're in too deep to escape. Okay, deep breath. Insurance that costs more than a car. Geography that's literally working against you. But there's a third trap. And this one? This one is almost funny in how perfectly designed it is to extract money from retirees. Let me tell you about the Villages. If you've heard of one retirement community in Florida, it's probably the Villages. Golf carts everywhere. Constant activities. It's like Disneyland for people over 55. Sounds perfect, right? The Villages has both amenity fees and community development district fees that can range from below $100 a month to more than $500. And that's before your actual HOA fees. But the Villages isn't the villain here. It's actually relatively transparent about costs. The real nightmare is everywhere else. HOA fees in Tampa jumped 17.2% year over year, reaching $614 per month. Orlando saw a 16.7% increase, Fort Lauderdale 16.2%. And these aren't luxury buildings with marble lobbies and concierge services. Many buildings without amenities now have HOA dues north of $1,000 a month. Why? Two reasons. First, after the Surfside condo collapse in 2021 that killed nearly 100 people, Florida enacted Senate Bill 4D requiring regular structural inspections and additional funds for repairs. That sounds reasonable until you realize what it means in practice. Some condo associations are doling out special assessments as high as $100,000. $100,000. Imagine you're 75 years old, you're on a fixed income, Social Security, and maybe a small pension, and one day you get a letter in the mail. Hi, your building needs $8 million in repairs. Your share is $100,000. We need it in 6 months. Where do you get that money? You don't, so you sell. Except condo sale prices in Jacksonville fell 6.6% year over year, the biggest decline among metros analyzed. Your property value is dropping at the exact moment you need to sell. You're trapped. Again. A lot of condo owners who are retired and on a fixed income are being forced to sell and relocate because they can't keep up with the payments. And it's not just condos. Even single-family homes in HOA communities are seeing massive increases. Average HOA fees in Florida typically range between $100 to $350, but can escalate to $400 to $800 for communities with significant amenities. But here's the really insidious part about these retirement bubbles. The infrastructure can't keep up. Everyone moves to the same 3 or 4 counties. Florida cities have more traffic now due to the influx of people relocating to the state. Roads that were designed for 100,000 people now serve 300,000. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Getting a doctor's appointment takes months. And speaking of hospitals, let's talk about that for a second. Florida ER wait times are about 2 hours and 37 minutes on average. That's actually 1.3% longer than the US average. Some emergency rooms like Gulf Coast Medical Center have wait times exceeding 4.5 hours. Tampa General, 4 hours and 20 minutes. You moved to Florida for your golden years. What happens when you have a medical emergency and you're sitting in an ER for 4 hours? But it gets darker. Florida has a nurse supply of about 9 per 1,000 people. Physician supply? Just over 3 per 1,000. Hospital beds? 2.5 per 1,000 people. The state ranks as the 5th worst for recovery from illness in the entire country. Think about that. You're retiring to a state that's one of the worst places in America to get sick. But nobody mentions this when they're selling you on the Florida lifestyle. They show you the golf courses and the beaches and the early bird specials. They don't show you the 45-minute drive to the ER. They don't show you waiting 4 months to see a cardiologist. They don't show you the panic when you realize the nearest hospital with your specialist is 2 hours away in traffic that never ends. You move to Florida for the easy life. Instead, you're sitting in traffic for 45 minutes to get to a grocery store that's 3 miles away. And the heat. Florida boasts over 300 days of sunshine throughout the year, which sounds great until you realize what that actually means. Air conditioning bills that run year-round. Summers where it's genuinely dangerous to be outside for more than 20 minutes. Let me give you some numbers that should terrify you. Miami averages 2.8 degrees warmer now than it did back in 1970. There are 36 additional above normal days compared to 1970. In 2024, Miami-Dade County experienced an unprecedented 60 days with a heat index at or over 105 degrees Fahrenheit. 60 days. Heat-related deaths begin to rise at a heat index of 86 degrees and rise steadily with each additional degree. It's estimated that the average number of excess deaths during times of extreme heat are 600 annually in Miami-Dade County alone. 600 people every year just from the heat. Heat is the #1 weather-related killer, and it's getting worse. The Panhandle is expected to experience roughly 30 to 40 more extreme heat days per year. Inland portions of the peninsula, 40+ more extreme heat days per year by 2050. This is the bubble trap. You're sold on a community, an idea, a lifestyle, and once you're in, the costs keep rising, the crowds keep growing, the infrastructure keeps failing, the heat keeps intensifying, and there's no escape without taking a massive financial loss. So, 3 traps: insurance that bankrupts you, geography that's disappearing, communities that extract every dollar you have. Florida sounds like a nightmare, right? And for most people, it is. But remember what I said at the beginning, there's an unless. There's a Florida that exists outside these traps, a version of the state where you can actually retire comfortably without gambling your life savings. I call it the sweet spot strategy. And this is the part you've been waiting for. Here's what nobody tells you about Florida. Florida isn't one place. It's not a state. It's a collection of micro markets, each with wildly different risk profiles, costs, and lifestyles. The retirees who succeed, the ones who actually get to enjoy their golden years, they don't move to Florida. They move to very specific towns using a very specific strategy. The sweet spot strategy has 3 rules. Rule 1, low climate risk. You need to be inland enough to avoid hurricane surge and coastal flooding, but not so far inland that you lose access to amenities. The safest place in Florida to live from hurricanes is generally inland central and North Florida, areas like Ocala and Gainesville, where hurricane surge and flood risks are significantly lower. Sebring, located in Central Florida's heartland, ranks among the top places to retire with minimal hurricane concerns. It's got lakes, it's got culture, and most importantly, it's geographically stable. Ocala's location in the middle of the state means the area doesn't experience the dangerous hurricanes that threaten much of Florida's coastline, which translates to lower home insurance costs. This is the key. You're not avoiding Florida, you're avoiding the parts of Florida that are geographically doomed. Think about it like this. If you drew a line down the center of Florida, everything east and west of that line within 30 miles of the coast is in the danger zone. Storm surge, flooding, erosion, the whole package. But that center corridor, that's where the sweet spots hide. Places that are close enough to the coast for day trips, but far enough inland that you're not gambling with Russian roulette odds every hurricane season. Rule 2, no bubble pricing. You need to find towns that haven't been overrun yet. Places where the median home price hasn't jumped from $250,000 to $410,000 in 6 years like it has in the major metros. Dade City's cost of living is 12% lower than the national average, with housing expenses 47% lower. Ponce Inlet offers coastal living with expenses running 5% below the national average and 8% lower than Florida's typical costs. Port Charlotte offers median sales prices in the low 300s to upper 200s. That's actual water access for less than half of what you'd pay in Miami or Naples. Here's why this matters. When you avoid the bubble pricing, you avoid the bubble problems. You're not competing with Wall Street investment firms buying up properties. You're not watching your neighbor's house sell for cash, sight unseen, to someone who's never even been to Florida. You're buying in a real market with real pricing based on real value. And when the next market correction comes, and it will come, your property doesn't lose 40% of its value because it was never artificially inflated in the first place. Rule 3. Old Florida charm. This is the secret ingredient. You're not looking for the newest, shiniest community. You're looking for places that have been around, where actual Floridians live, where the economy doesn't revolve entirely around retirees. Fort Pierce, nicknamed the Sunrise City, offers breathtaking morning skies with a cost of living 1.4% below the U.S. average and 4.4% lower than Florida. This is a real town with real character, not a manufactured retirement bubble. Dunedin on the Gulf Coast has a cost of living 3% lower than the national average, and crime rates 18% lower than the national level. It's an actual island town with art galleries, museums, and a community that existed before the retirement boom. Why does this matter? Because when a town has old Florida charm, it means the infrastructure was built for the long haul. It means there are multiple generations living there. It means the economy is diverse enough to survive a recession. It means the hospitals aren't overwhelmed because the population didn't triple in 10 years. It means you're moving to a community, not a retirement warehouse. Now, I can't give you the entire list here, that's a whole other video, but I will tell you this. These sweet spot towns exist. Places like Lakeland, with median home prices around $290,000 and a cost of living close to the national average. Navarre in the Panhandle with median sales prices around $400,000 and access to some of the most beautiful beaches in the state. The strategy works because these towns avoid all three traps simultaneously. Lower climate risk means lower insurance. The average Florida homeowner's insurance premium is over $6,000 annually, but inland properties cost significantly less. We're talking $3,500 to $4,000 instead of $14,000. That difference alone pays for a nice vacation every year. No bubble pricing means you're not competing with Wall Street firms and remote workers from California driving up costs. You can actually buy a house without getting into a bidding war with 20 other people. And Old Florida charm means the infrastructure actually works. The roads aren't choked. The hospitals have capacity. You can get a dinner reservation without booking 3 weeks in advance. The ER wait time might be 90 minutes instead of 4 hours. You can actually see a doctor when you need one. These are the towns where real Floridians retire. The ones who grew up in the state. The ones who understand the risks and know how to avoid them. The ones who aren't fooled by the marketing. And here's the beautiful part. These towns still have everything that makes Florida great. The weather is still better than Ohio. The taxes are still lower than New York. You still have access to beaches, culture, and all the activities you wanted. You're just not paying a premium for the privilege of slowly going bankrupt. You now know the traps, you know the strategy, but I have one last warning for you, and this one might be the most important. Time is running out. Not in some dramatic clickbait sense. I mean literally. The sweet spot towns I'm talking about, they're already being discovered. Real estate agents are figuring this out. The first wave of smart retirees is already moving there. In 5 years, places like Sebring and Lakeland and Port Charlotte might look exactly like the retirement bubbles you're trying to avoid. The window is closing. Every month, another 100 retirees figure out that the coastal dream is a lie. And every month, another 50 of them find one of these sweet spot towns. And every month, prices inch up a little more. HOA fees increase a little more. Traffic gets a little worse. The clock is ticking, so if you're serious about this, if you're actually planning to retire in Florida, you need to move now. Not next year. Not when the market settles. Now. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Florida is still an incredible place to retire. The weather really is amazing. The tax benefits are real. The lifestyle can be exactly what you dreamed of. But only if you do it right. Only if you avoid the insurance trap, the geography trap, and the bubble trap. only if you use the sweet spot strategy to find those hidden gems before everyone else does. Don't just move to Florida. That's a marketing campaign designed to separate you from your money. Move to the right part of Florida, the part that still makes sense, the part where your retirement savings can actually support the life you worked 40 years to earn. And if you want to see the full breakdown of the 10 best sweet spot towns, the ones I've personally researched and vetted, I've made an entire video on it. It's linked on your screen right now. 10 unknown Florida sanctuaries you need to retire in. Because you deserve better than falling into the same trap as everyone else. You deserve the Florida dream, the real one, not the nightmare.